towards the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance. The invocation is a brilliant answer to every question anyone ever asks about anything ever. Towards the One. It has the duality and the non-duality. Both exist, the duality and the non-duality, and both are useful and relevant and tangible. My brain just bopped to, I think, 4 different versions of the word efficacious, effective, efficient. Like it works. They work. It works. They work. It works. They work. Towards the One. You know the I don't want to take myself in too many tangents. It is said that the entire Quran is summarized in the first chapter, Al-Fatiha. It is also said that the entire Quran and Al-Fatiha is summarized in Bismillah. And it's said that Bismillah and all of Al-Fatiha and all of the Quran is summarized in B. And B is summarized in the dot underneath the letter that in the Arabic, the B looks like a crescent, mostly, with a dot underneath. The dot. That is like everything, all of the teachings, all the instruction, all the wisdom, all the practices, all the tools are summarized in the dot underneath the B. That is the beginning point. It's the defining characteristic of beginningness. And everything that we are doing in our human experience, in our soul's journey, in the process of creation itself, is encapsulated in that all-inclusive spark. And in this soul journey, this is like Sufi perspective, Sufi cosmology, Piro Murshid Inayat Khan, and the soul is never anything but God. The soul is absolute, untainted, untaintable perfection. And the soul is sent into this world of multiplicity, of duality, of separation, for the beauty and the richness of this experience that God longs for. And the process of the soul, the experience of life in this world, includes the obscurations. The soul is swaddled in the nafs. That is like the soul is the newborn infant that is wrapped in the protections, in the warmth, in the layers, in the knowledge and the skills of the nafs. That is all the aspects and levels and layers and expressions and planes of the ego. And the more time we spend going through life, infancy, toddlerhood, childhood, adolescence, individuations, it's just wrapping layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of protections, of experience, of information, of skills and strategies and responses to life. And all of these layers they're all the nafs. And those are not something that is wrong or something that is bad or something that is misguided or mistaken. It's the natural, necessary conditioning that is acclimating, protecting, and enabling the soul to have the experience that she is intended to experience in life. We can't do it without an ego. We can't do it without the information of this world, of this life. So, we do all of this. It happens naturally. It's normal and healthy, appropriate, and essential to gather all of those layers, all of that data. It's a bad word for it, but you know what I mean. Every one of us, like on this call, in this conversation, on the Sufi path, every one of us has gone through all of the layers of armoring, of gathering those layers and protections and skills. And every one of us, this isn't like all of humanity, I just mean like, you know, our spiritual family. Every one of us has gotten to a point in our lives that we start examining all of those layers of the nafs and we go, do I need this? I did at some point, but do I now? Or I thought I did, but do I still? It's gotten to a point where we get to examine each protection, each identification, each association, each experience, every fragment of knowledge, and we get to look at it and go, do I keep it or do I send it to Goodwill? Or put it in the compost heap? Or put it in a box in an attic in case it comes in handy at another time? The word nafs is so complex. It means so many things. Murshid mostly said that it means the ego. It's a cute 3-letter, 1-word, 2-syllable, tidy, simplistic comparison of language to the nafs. But then he also said annihilation of the false ego in the real. The false ego is the nafs, and the real is also the nafs. The nafs, it is, you are correct, it is said to be the ego attachments, which is not the ego itself, it's the attachments of the ego. It's also said to be the knots, the K-N-O-T-S, knots, the ties, the entanglements. That is the tethers that keep the soul connected with this earth plane experience. Nafs is also said to be the cloak, the garments that are worn over the self. It's the facade. It's the personality. It's the character. It's the values and the aptitudes. The nafs is the identifications of the self. If you say, hey, each one of you beautiful friends, who are you? And any answer you come up with is the nafs. And if we ask it 100 times, okay, and who are you? And you come up with another answer, that's also the nafs. And we ask again, and really, who are you? And the answer you come up with is still the nafs, always. And it doesn't matter how deep and how rich and how true and how surface and how simple and how playful and silly. It doesn't matter. It's all the nafs. It's all the nafs. It's also said that the nafs is the breath, the physical breath that flows in and out of the body, that brings life. That's the rhythm of physical sustenance that is essential, that is equated to life itself. Also the nafs. Now we can go into, I'm not going to because I'm not smart enough or I don't want to take that much time, or both of those things, all of the different levels of the nafs. You can go into a big, huge, deep wormhole like Weileen's mandala over here that is of the levels of the nafs. That is, on what level are you functioning right now? On what level are you identifying, understanding, experiencing yourself in relation to all the planes of consciousness and existence? And they're all the nafs. From the most dense, that you can tie this into, probably at least one, but maybe two, maybe three of you have particular associations in the yogic philosophy about the planes of consciousness, Buhur, Bhuvaha, Svaha, Maha, Janaha, Tapaha. That is, all of these levels of consciousness that they're all part of our beings. They're all accessible to us all the time. And in the Sufi cosmology, they are the levels of the nafs. It's not exactly the same system, but it's close enough that you can see, like, same stuff. So, when each of us, this morning, before we opened our eyes, while we were still in that liminal state between dream and wake, you had an experience coming into awareness of your own existence, still in bed, maybe still in a dark room, eyes closed, and you could have some sense of, I am. That sense of I am is also the nafs. It's one experience, one plane, one level of nafs Then, as you wake up and stretch your body, start wiggling, moving toward the edge of the bed. Eventually, if you're like me, you take a long time of just lingering. But you wake up a little more. You get more and more associated with earth plane, with the responsibilities of the day, with the conscious thoughts, with the feeling of self, the connection, resonance, or dissonance you experience with your own physical body, the workings of your own mind, the emotions that come into your consciousness. And in each moment of that process, you can go, what level of the nafs am I experiencing, am I touched into right now? And it's different. Then you get into other things, just physical activity things. Maybe you're in the shower, washing, brushing teeth, washing hair, scrubbing off physical body, and you're not so much thinking about existential thoughts. You're just like tending to physical earth plane stuff and stuff. That's a level of the nafs. So the levels of the nafs, they're described in ways that are, some are very, very dense, very coarse. That's not in a bad way. It's just very tangible, very visceral earth plane associations. Those are the nafs. Are they false or are they real? Both. There is the tangibility. Nobody is saying that this earth plane doesn't exist. Nobody is saying that. Well, some people do. I'm not saying that. Murshid isn't saying that. Earth plane stuff exists. This physical body with molecules, with fabrics that you're wearing on your physical body, and the hair that's growing out of follicles, and the bones, the teeth, the nails, the muscles, the skin, the nervous system, everything, like physical earth plane, it's for real. It's legitimate. It's really here. You're not making it up. It doesn't just exist in your imagination. And it's fleeting. The soul recognizes it as like, this is an experience. But the soul knows that this physical experience is not what the soul is. The soul is beyond all of the molecules. It gets to ride around and experience the molecules, but it is not the molecules. In this process, the soul is confused. In this earth human process, this is Sufi cosmology, the soul becomes confused. The soul comes into physical form and begins to think, I am my body. I am this earth. I am the coffee I had this morning. I am my relationships. I am my responsibilities. I am my roles and my work. But that's a confusion. It's not true. So this dissolving of the self, the dissolving of the false in the real, is the process of trying to give the soul an experience of its true nature, free from the restrictions and confusions of the earth plane. And we don't want to do that by suiciding ourselves out of this human experience, because we recognize that the human experience is precious and sacred and in the vision and purpose of God. So, we, in our Sufi engagement, are doing both. We're engaging with the beauty and the wonder and the miracle of this life in a world of limitation, in the world of temporary, tangible experience. And we're cherishing it, and we're honoring it, we're respecting it and loving it, and doing our best to develop great mastery on the earth plane with earth plane experiences. And at the same time, we are turning our awareness to include the immortal, eternal perfection of the soul. And we're wanting to experience that as fully and beautifully as possible while staying masterfully engaged on the earth plane. Not one or the other, both and. One of the ways, a beautiful way, that we do that, Sufi cosmology, is by tending to the relationship with God. I could say the God ideal because that makes it more personally relevant. It is ultimately really about having a relationship with God, not the God ideal, God. Not all of us feel God in her ultimate form, in her ultimate reality, in her all-pervadingness. So the God ideal is the personal way that each of us can cultivate that relationship that is like the bridge that it helps us experience the connection, that cord between this individuated human experience and the ultimate unfathomable God. That really doesn't work for everyone. Murshid described it like it works for everyone, but it does not. It worked for Murshid. Maybe it works for each of you on this conversation today. I don't know. Each of us does have the opportunity, the invitation, if we wish, to really shape the God ideal in a way that is useful for us, to help us experience more fully, more completely, to feel held and loved and accompanied and guided and synced up in harmony, in collaboration between our experience of our cute, limited human self and the perfection of the soul self, which is God. I don't know that a blank slate is desirable. For some, it is. What's desirable is having a really consistent, robust knowing of the perfection of our own divine nature. It relieves the anxiety and the tension and confusion of our very human efforts to find safety and security and stability and constancy in the ever-changingness of this life in the multiplicity. Every one of us has experiences of, and hopefully now more, witnessing of the stress and anxiety and fear and distress that comes by trying to assign eternal attributes to the ephemeral life. That was too many big words, I'm sorry. It's us trying to expect life to be something that it's not, the world to be something it's not, our humanness to be something that it's not. This is not my body. This mind is not who I am. My roles and responsibilities are not who I am. The things that I love are not who I am. Who I truly am, this is for all of us, who I truly am is beyond all the forms, all the details, all the associations. And the more I know that, not in my brain, but in my felt, solid wisdom body experience, the more I know that, the more freedom I feel, the more peace is available to me, the more love flows through me, the more equanimity I enjoy, the less fear I experience, the less stress, and the more available I am with my power capacity, with my connection with the divine attributes. Sounds good to me. Beyond the ego into a pure place. That's one of the notes I made. Beyond the ego into a pure place. So in Sufi terms, I would say beyond the false ego into the real, which is the pure place. So we are encouraged, invited, instructed to find any ways that work for us individually to slough off all of the unnecessary aspects of the nafs, to strive to disconnect, dissolve, release, untangle from, clear, purify the obscuration levels and functions of the nafs. And the ways that we do that are so unique to each person. There is the general instruction is sweepingly relevant, and the how is unique to each person. Because all of those different functions and expressions of the nafs are unique to each person. So, do we need to approach them and clear them by going, I'm trying to get my original sound on and it's not working. Sorry, no original sound for you ever again. Oh, it is on, isn't it? Well, then I can't turn it off.
I noticed that yesterday. It was
Weird.
doing that on mine too.
Interesting. Okay. So sometimes the approach for dissolving the nafs is to go, who, who, And sometimes, I'm going to ruin that a little. Are you ready? Sometimes the approach is to go, hoo, 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 hoo. Sometimes it's a knocking. It's a knocking on the heart. It's a pounding through defenses. And sometimes it is the sweetest, softest, most gentle. And and each of us could use 1,000 different approaches for different aspects of the nafs. And y'all, I do this a lot. And we're no good at determining what we need for ourselves. So we need help. It's like we're trying to see ourselves clearly, but we don't realize we're wearing contact lenses, like um, okay, bad comparison. Um, we don't know what lens we're looking through. We don't know what colored glasses we're looking through because we're so accustomed to it. We only see things through our own perspective, which is a really damn narrow perspective. All right, one other thing before I stop this recording. This this conversation about perfection and mistakes. That is also a both and. That if we look at everything about our human lives from a wide enough perspective, there are no mistakes. I agree. If we look from God perspective, everything is happening as it should, as it could, as willed, as whatever, like things are happening. And it's not a mistake. There are no mistakes. Sweet. The more we zoom in, the more specific we are in our view, the more we see things that could use improvement. Do you want to call those imperfections? Go for it. Do you want to call them mistakes? Go for it. Do you want to call them flaws? Fine. I don't really care what you call them. Call them whatever you want. In Sufi perspective, we are instructed, adamantly instructed, to examine our mistakes, to examine our imperfections. It is my job. I am Sarah. It is Sarah's job to be relentless and consistent and thorough and vigilant about examining Sarah's mistakes, Sarah's shortcomings, Sarah's imperfections, Sarah's motivations, actions, choices, thoughts, experiences, behaviors, preferences, and aversions. It is Sarah's job to look at every imperfection that Sarah embodies in her humanness so that, not for the sake of guilt and shame and berating and criticism and condemnation, no, 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 so that every one of those things can be brought into a light of awareness, of understanding, of conscientious shaping, managing, cultivating, developing, so that I, Sarah, in my humanness, can become as fully, beautifully embodied akhlaq Allah, the embodiment and expression of God in this world, in this humanness, as much as possible. That is my job. That is my responsibility. That is my holy instruction, Holy, instruction. That's my instruction. Hopefully, I I feel like I'm good at this one. That I go, I am vigilant about myself and the shortcomings and mistakes and unskillful choices that I make, I look at with amusement, with curiosity, with kindness, with love, with acceptance, with a sincere desire to see it for what it is, to understand it for what it is, and to shape things in a better direction according to my will and my intention and God's will and intention. I do that for myself without guilt and shame and self-hatred. Like, I don't know why. I don't have those things. If I do, I'm sure I probably do somewhere. But even those things I would look at as a curiosity. Like, I'm so entertained by myself. I really am. I'm just like, wow, what a choice. Oh my goodness. That was silly. That was dumb. But without any like I suck. I don't do any like oh I suck. I don't do that. So really we are invited, and in Sufi land we are invited to do this process and this self-inquiry and self-development in a context of love. That we 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 take hand with teachers that we feel are going to treat us with honesty, with kindness, with good instruction that is based in wisdom and compassion to help us unfold into the most beautiful, powerful, free expressions possible. I don't have any of these um, cute little things about, oh, we're all perfect. Well, yes, and there are no mistakes. Maybe. And we have our work to do. And avoiding that and dismissing it with um, lovely affirmations that we can put on the bathroom mirror does not actually help us really understand and take responsibility for working through those entanglements of the nafs and really coming into the greatest, most shining, beautiful humanness possible. There is one path, the annihilation of the false ego in the real, in which resides all perfection. I might have spliced those. The annihilation of the false ego in the real. So it's a short version of what Murshid actually intended with this particular Sufi thought, which is it is annihilation of the false ego in the real ego. Because the real ego, the real self, the real beingness is free from, pure from the obscurations and confusions of the false ego. So when you look at the different levels of the nafs, I described that some of them are very coarse and dense. That is the visceral, felt, earth plane functions of the nafs. But the highest level of the nafs, I shouldn't say the highest because I don't want to make it sound like it's better. It's just like what we can access What is available and what truly exists is an identification that is pure God. That the the self, the soul, when we are able to see and experience that completely in its purity, it's like um, all of the layers are cleared and purified so that you can really see things as they are. And that level of self in its absolute purity is one of the levels of the nafs. It's one of the levels of association. It's rare that we actually experience that we catch glimpses of it. But probably every one of you, probably every one of us has experienced that, if just for a moment, if just for a few seconds of seeing the absolute, true, pure nature of your own being. That is also a level of the nafs. We want to detach from, clear our entanglement, our enmeshment with the forms and the levels of the nafs that are farther from that experience. From a previous conversation I recently had about being in a home with single pane glass, I'm thinking about the nafs as being multiple panes of glass. So you can go through just the outermost layer that is the most dense and the most grungy, probably. And we want to purify that until we can see straight through it to the next pane. And then we want to purify that until it's completely clear so we can see straight through to the next pane and purify that. And we can do that with every level of the nafs so that we can see straight through to what is ultimately real, the true, true self, completely unobscured. So we could think about the levels of the nafs as being those planes of identification, of association, that we want to purify all of them so we can straight through with as much clarity and truth as possible.